Some of those platforms and languages that are common across those social media platforms and how you might think about them a little bit differently. So that's format. Kate will then pick up with content and best practices for effective messaging. So what do we know from the research? And I think for those of you who've been in Trevor's previous classes, this will really continue that line for you. And then Anaya Butler, who comes to us from this advocacy organization called Youth versus Apocalypse, which is this incredibly exciting group out of Oakland. We'll talk about some of their videos and tactics and how they use those in their own advocacy. So we'll each talk for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that should give us about a half an hour as a large group for discussion and Q&A. I know some of you have been doing some small breakout rooms, but because of the format of today, we wanted to give you all a chance to speak with all of us. First of all, hello. For those of you I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Leah Faw. I am the social media director for the Environmental Forum of Marin. So I manage all of our social media spaces, that's Instagram and Facebook. So any posts you see there, that's me behind the scenes. I'm also a graduate student just finishing up my PhD at UC Berkeley in education. So I teach in the School of Education, but I also teach in media studies and in gender and women's studies. So that's a little bit about my background. And I have a lot of fun thinking about digital media spaces. And so that's kind of the lens that I'm coming to today with. So one of the things that I wanted to start with before we even start thinking about where you would want to place your videos, your persuasive videos, are some of the ways that you want to think about them as outward facing media objects, right? So this is all of the different platforms, and we're going to get into each of these. But before you even get there, how do you think about yourself as an advocate, and how do you think about your video as an advocacy tool? So one of the ways I wanted you to think about that was through avatars and thumbnails. And these are really, really simple tools. You can tell the public, i.e. the people that you want to be engaging with your advocacy, who you are. So your avatar is simply your profile picture or your logo or something in that realm. And as you can see here, it can be a nothing, or if we use the Park Service as an example, it can really be a something. It can be a way of telling your public, this is who I am. So the Park Service here, we've got their logo, but we've also got that iconic green, right? So anytime you're on a Park Service platform, social media platform, you immediately know that's who you're talking to. So don't overlook any opportunity when you're using video and when you're on these social media platforms to speak to your audience in this way. The second thing I wanted to talk about was this is you, but then how do you also sort of brand or identify the video content you're putting out? And one of the good ways to do that is through thumbnails. So I went to YouTube and looked up videos about biodiversity. That's the theme for Forum 2021. And I found this really gorgeous, dynamic, striking image of a lion. And of course, I clicked on that video because I wanted to see more. But of course, if you go to that video, it starts and it's not about a lion. Well, it is somewhere in there. There's a lion, right? But what they've done is they've gone through the video and they decided what is the most compelling image that they're going to put for that thumbnail. And that's something that you as the content creator are going to want to do too. So if your video starts with someone at a podium, that's not how your thumbnail needs to start. Think of something else or go through your video and find another compelling image. So the other thing I wanted to talk about before we get to these platforms, these like to, are memes and GIFs. I can call them GIFs or GIFs. There's a lot of dispute. And these aren't videos, but they're video adjacent. And you're often going to see them in the same spaces as videos. And they're kind of part of the same visual landscape as video. I just want to talk about them briefly. So memes are static images, and they're meant to be shared. That is their love language, is being shared. So here on the left, you have the "this is fine" meme, which started off as a dog in a burning building. And of course, it's humorous, right? It's not fine. But it's often taken up to talk about the not fineness. And so you see on the bottom an image of the world, i.e., climate change, saying this is not fine. So often what these memes do is give us a humorous or dynamic entree into more serious material. And so often what you'll see is someone will sort of start something, especially a post that has heavier content, with something like a meme. And it can be a great way to engage your audience into watching the rest of your video. The other piece of content I wanted to call out was a GIF. And again, GIF or GIF. And these are short animation loops, and they can be actually animation or they can be from real life. And again, they can either be superimposed over your videos to kind of give them a little bit more life, or they can kind of come before them in that sort of post or conversation. And again, these are both meant to be shared, and they give your video a lot of dynamism, a lot of life, a lot of that kind of excitement that we're looking for in terms of shareability, likability, that sort of, I'm going to press like quality that boosts engagement. Okay. So in just a minute, I'm going to switch over to my first slide about Facebook. And I just want to signal really quickly that it's got a lot of text on it. I'm going to be sending out all of my slides, so you do not need to take copious notes. I promise. I'm going to walk us through these. I know as an educator that every time you see text, it's like, oh God, I have to capture all of it. You don't, I promise. I'm going to walk us through it. I will be sending out all of my slides with text, and then also some short videos that I captured of myself using all of these different platforms for you. Okay. All right. So the first one I want to talk about is Facebook. And the reason I wanted to start here, even though it's not necessarily a primarily video-based platform, is it's the oldest of all of the platforms that I'm going to be talking about today. And I think it's probably the one that most folks are most familiar or comfortable with. Now, again, it's not primarily for videos. It is, in fact, multimodal. So it's great for texts and images and video, and it can do a lot. It's sort of the all-purpose. And so in that respect, the Facebook aesthetic is very chatty and personal. It kind of functions like a newsletter. If you think of it that way, it kind of helps me get a handle on it. So it can be really easy to upload videos either to your own personal page or to a group or page. So the Environmental Forum of Marin, for example, is a page. So it's pretty easy to get content onto Facebook because they want you to add content. It's a kind of content monster. And it's built for sharing and resharing. So one of the things that I would warn you is that sometimes, because it's a content sharing and resharing monster, your things will get shared and they don't necessarily sort of stay with you as a content creator. And so if you're really interested in your content staying with you, Facebook might not be the place. It is run on a series of algorithms. So it's going to try to maximize like what is the most popular or what it thinks you want to see as the user. And if you've been following Facebook in the news, we know that has problems. And because videos are not necessarily primary content, it's not necessarily, again, going to show folks videos. So if we're thinking about videos today, Facebook is a useful tool, but it may not perhaps be our most useful tool. Okay. Now, a lot of videos on Facebook are being imported from other platforms. So we're going to talk about what some of those platforms are and what some of those tools that might be more useful, maybe. Okay. You can create videos directly in Facebook, but it's not optimized for that. All right. So again, Facebook does have this video tool. And if you go up here to video, it will start showing you video. So that is where you're going to find it. And again, I will send out a video of me using the Facebook video option. Okay. So my second platform that I want to talk through today is YouTube. Now, this one is built for videos. This is the primary video site on the internet. And it is really only for videos, right? It doesn't have posts with tons and tons of text, although each video is identified with a little bit of accompanying text. So the way that you talk about your video is part of the way that the algorithm pushes it out, whether it's your description or your title or the way you brand yourself in your own channel's messaging. So again, it's the go-to site for videos. And you can post videos up to several hours in length on YouTube, up to like a documentary film. So it is super, super, super easy to get started with a channel and uploading videos. So if you think that you'd like to begin making advocacy videos, start a YouTube channel. It's not hard. I know it sounds like channel makes it sound maybe a little bit difficult or there's a high barrier to entry, but that is absolutely not true. So YouTube videos are ranked by popularity, like thumbs up or thumbs down, people voting on them. But the user suggestions in terms of what it will show you as a user are largely determined by your viewing habits. So if I really, really like knitting, which I do, it's going to start showing me more and more videos about knitting or whatever it is that you like. So it's very important that you, again, use a little bit of description so that the algorithm knows who to show your videos to. There is a paid level, so those subscribers don't see ads. That's really cool. And the other really cool thing that you can do is create lists of videos. So you can do a list of biodiversity videos, or I know that Trevor's been talking about small off-road motors. You can create a list, or it's called a mix on YouTube, of approaching that angle from advocacy, policy, health. And then that lives as a list. And then anytime anyone clicks on one of those videos, they get the suggestion to watch the whole mix. And that's really cool. It kind of gives people a chance to like clue into a whole bunch of related topics or videos. The other really great thing about YouTube is that for accessibility, it offers automatic and manual closed captioning. So automatic is it like listens to your video, AI, and offers closed captioning. Manual is it gives you, the user, the option to close caption. Okay, again, YouTube, and I'll show you this video in the follow-up. Okay, Instagram. So if Facebook is a newsletter, Instagram is a catalog. Think of it that way. It's glossy, it's manicured, it's highly filtered. It is really primarily for photos, and it was really optimized and built for that. So that said, there are some videos on Instagram, and they are making their way to the platform through something called Reels and Stories. Now, Reels are just Instagram's fancy way of saying short videos, but Stories are this thing that Instagram does that are short, temporary posts, and they disappear in 24 hours. That's to keep people kind of checking into the app so they don't miss anything. It's optimized for sharing, again, photos, images. So it can be really hard to find and reshare videos. They're not really thinking about it that way. It is kind of perfect on your phone. It's not optimized for desktop, although they are working on that. And one of the things that I think kind of is evidence of that is if you watch Reels or Stories, i.e. video, they don't play with sound. So again, it's not really thinking about video, it's thinking about static images. The other really big thing about Instagram, again, it's a catalog. Think of it that way. So paid content and unpaid content are deeply enmeshed. Like they are almost one and the same. And we're going to talk about the Instagram effect a little bit in a minute, but it can make ads difficult to spot. So I would say that Instagram is not really an educational platform. That's not where you find education. And in fact, there are a lot of studies talking about how bad it is, for example, for body image for like teenagers to spend a lot of time on Instagram. So Instagram, maybe not your best friend for video. All right. That's an example of a reel. Okay. Real quick. So Vimeo. Vimeo is primarily for videos. It is maybe one you're not as familiar with. It is a head-to-head competitor with YouTube. Again, it has a little bit of text that accompany each video. There isn't an aesthetic that is uniform, but what I will say is it's considered like a little bit more serious than YouTube in some ways. There is a little bit more of like content creators organizing their portfolios. So for example, the Environmental Forum of Marin, we have content on there. It's fairly easy to begin uploading, but because there are these tiers that you pay for, again, it has the sense of being a little bit more serious. And so you unlock these tiers. In that respect, it's not as well used or as well loved, but it can be a really good place for educational content. So if there's something you're really looking for, you might find it on Vimeo. The thing that I don't love about it, and that is often leveled at Vimeo, is that videos can be really hard to search for and really hard to find. Like, even if you know what you're looking for, even if you know exactly what you're looking for. Even today, trying to find videos to show y'all, I couldn't find things. It drives me crazy. So Vimeo is a tough one. But it's best, and it works really, really well for directing people to specific content. So like if we, the forum, have a video we want you to go see, we host it on Vimeo so that we can show it to you, because it does have a really, really good sharing feature. And you can both embed videos through Vimeo, and you can also share them. So again, if you have really specific content that you want to host and share and kind of keep hold of, remember I talked about with Facebook, sometimes you can kind of lose control of your content. That can be a problem you can solve through a space like Vimeo. So there are trade-offs here, right? All right, last one, I promise. I know this is a lot coming at you. This one is fun. And don't knock it till you try it. It's TikTok. All right. I know that the reputation for TikTok is that it's kind of light and fluffy, and it's like, isn't that where the kids all dance? I mean, yeah, true. But TikTok is designed specifically for videos. So if we're talking about video today, TikTok is maybe a tool you should have in your pocket. And again, it's not just for dancing. The way that I describe TikTok, and I'm trying to sell it to y'all because I try to sell it to everybody, is that it's a dinner party with a million rooms. And each room kind of has a conversation happening in it. So I love knitting, and there's basketball, which is not my thing, but then there's climate change over here, and oh, those are the kids dancing. And every room you can walk into, there's something different. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is make sure that your video lands in the right room. Now, when TikTok first started, the videos were incredibly short, like 15 to 60 seconds. They're just expanding the possibility of up to 3 minutes, but that's short. So if you want to see a master class in how to capture people's attention and do it quickly, TikTok. The other thing was, there was initially, now they're changing this now, but initially there was no scrubbing. That meant there was no ability to get into a video and move the cursor. Like, I just want to watch the middle to the end. No, you had to either watch the whole video or none of the video, right? So again, you have to hook people immediately, right? Because if you don't hook them, they're just going to scroll by. So again, that master class in the hook. So the TikTok aesthetic, it's not a newsletter, it's not a catalog, it's more about that energy. It's short, it's catchy, it's high engagement. And if you want to see people who are doing an excellent job of that, I would highly recommend TikTok. And I'm seeing Kim with her hand up. Please go ahead. Oh, you're muted though.
I'm curious why you haven't mentioned Twitter.
Yeah, most videos on Twitter are hosted elsewhere from either TikTok or YouTube. Twitter doesn't have any of its own video capabilities. And Kim knows, I don't love Twitter. So thank Kim and I talk about. But yes, you absolutely can post videos to Twitter. They don't play well. You actually have to follow the link off of Twitter. So they don't even play kind of inside of Twitter. You can post links But that's why I didn't mention it. But we can talk about it a little bit more in the Q&A too, what that would look like. Yeah. So just to briefly wrap up on TikTok, there's something called a For You page, an FYP, which very, very quickly learns users' tastes and viewing preferences, and it will keep showing them similar videos. So the FYP is designed to be addictive. So users find content through individual creators. So Youth versus Apocalypse, for example, has a channel, through the FYP algorithm, and also through those hashtags. So if you create content, it's really, really important, again, that you tag it. Basically, you label it with those hashtags so folks can find it appropriately. There is an excellent sharing functionality with TikTok. And though you can save and favorite videos and you can follow specific creators, one of the things about TikTok is it's kind of ephemeral. If you don't save or follow it, it can be really difficult to get back to a video you loved. I just wanted to talk about the flip side of this really, really quickly, which is the Instagram effect. So I'm telling y'all about all of these different platforms, and I'm having you think about how you sort of optimize your content for each of these platforms. The flip side of that is being too same. And folks have been talking about this as the Instagram effect. And I'm going to send out some research about this. And that can be, your content being so well maximized for any of these given platforms that it doesn't stand out. So there's a real sweet spot between being a good fit for any platform that you choose, but also having a unique voice. So I'll urge you to think about what is your unique voice.
So hi, my name is Kate O'Donnell. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a science educator and multimedia producer. I have spent the last 14 years doing environmental education at the Exploratorium, as well as other institutions around the country. And my background, however, is in video and film and audio, and I have had a delightful journey of getting to teach scientists audio and then somehow end up an environmental educator. So, so here we are. And some of the things that, let's see, make sure, there we go, that I wanted to talk about this evening are basically, Leah did this amazing job of going over all of these different platforms where one can sort of get one's message. And yet, how do we get to the point of the message, right? What is it that's going to spark that kind of aha moment in folks and inspire them to, do something, even if that just means sharing, right? And spreading the word. And really, how do we sort of distill things down in a way that is both reflecting what it is that we are hoping to sort of get across, while also then inspiring some sort of call to action, particularly when we're talking about more difficult subjects, which can often come up within environmental education. So, sort of to go a little bit more broadly, what I thought I would do is just speak about some of the slightly more kind of general principles that we think about when we are designing environmental education, particularly around as informed by a lot of the social science research that I'm going to share around things that enable audiences to be able to really leave feeling empowered versus just sort of overwhelmed, right? Which is really that sweet spot that we're looking for all of, certainly for myself, I know, right? For all of us. And then sort of some of the pieces that we know from science around that specific piece. And I was just going to use one example of a program that I've done as sort of a way that we can look at a specific piece of content and how we might approach it too for different types of platforms, and how there isn't necessarily one correct approach to something. It's actually a whole variety of things depending on what it is that you're looking for. So we'll talk a little bit about audience and what that research is, as well as how we can foster literacy within a topic, sort of as authentically yet quickly as possible, so that we're able to really get a message across, and then where that translates into a call for action. Okay. And I can sort of see you at the bottom. If anyone has any questions or comments or outbursts, please just feel free to jump in at any point. Okay. So this is the piece that I am talking about. We're in terms of our example, which is our buoy days at the Exploratorium, which is basically when we take this very large ocean acidification buoy out, do a whole bio blitz around it, and we'll go into a little bit more some of sort of the thinking behind that and the ways that we've approached that. But I love this picture because I get really excited looking at all of the creatures, and it makes me excited when other people do too. So really the first piece is identifying our audience. And one thing that is always sort of a pet peeve of mine when we talk about education is the idea that there's just one. There's not, right? Certainly at the Exploratorium, we're talking about a huge age range. Like, I want a baby to be able to come and like stick their hands in kelp and have a totally amazing tactile experience. And then PhD biology like person working on their dissertation be able to have a conversation with the scientists about how this is working, right? And I think that there really is this ability to be able to sort of hit all of that. And obviously I am sort of speaking to something that is sort of slightly like bigger in terms of making specific videos. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can have one piece of content relate to a lot of different audiences. And, in your videos, you're probably going to be targeting specific audiences as you do that. But the idea that there is anything that isn't approachable for different age audiences, I reject. I think that, there is a way to talk non-pedantically in a way that's just exciting, right? And I think that that is sort of where we get into some of these other pieces that I've put on this slide, are like, what are the goals about your messaging, and making sure that that's really clear in the content that you're creating. And by goals, I mean, like, do you want people to walk away knowing more about ocean acidification or biodiversity and invasive species? Or do you want them to walk away knowing more about that and what they can do about it? Or do you want them to walk away being super, super inspired to do something about it, right? And it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive, but being able to identify first and ground your content creation in what experience you want your audience to have is, I think, really important, because that just helps inform like what it is that we're presenting, but also just the way that we are sort of thinking about and talking about, right? And then towards that effect, putting down this sort of, what do we know, what do we wonder, what excites us, what surprises us. Those are when, when I'm approaching content creation and when our team is approaching content creation, we often do so sort of less necessarily from like, what is the NGSS science standard we want to meet versus what is the phenomenon that folks can experience. And I've been extremely lucky to get to work with sort of scientists and residents of a whole variety of topics. And we're wonder like, okay, you're a climate modeler. What you do is really sort of opaque, or not opaque, right? And what is it that excites you about it, right? Like, what is it that excites me about it? What are the questions that you don't know, like that your research is trying to answer? What are the things that we wonder? And I think by really getting to bring people into that wondering process, like we're able to involve people in the process of science as well. So it's not just people kind of coming with all of the answers and saying, this is this, right? This is this protected ivory tower body of knowledge that you don't have a role in. Instead, it's much more of a like, let's figure this out together. And what are the things that I'm curious about? And how does that relate to what you're curious about and what scientists are curious about, et cetera? Um, so basically, one of the things that, you know, as I said, we're sort of using the buoy as an example of this. And I think that part of this is also identifying opportunities. So we have this, the Exploratorium has an ocean acidification buoy. And essentially, it's, you know, we borrowed it from NOAA. It's on long-term loan. It's measuring ocean acidification, bringing data in. It's very exciting. And it turned out we need to maintain it and maintain the instruments. So there was this whole discussion in the team, okay, like where are we going to put it? It's going to be in the way, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it occurred to us that maybe we could just put it in the public area and make a program out of it. And in doing so, when we lifted it up and put it there, we realized it was, of course, a giant settling plate. And like all of the things we wanted to talk about around ocean acidification the first day, no one wanted to talk about because there was so much cool stuff to see on the buoy, right? And so it was sort of a pivot of like, oh, right, no, this is BioBlitz Day. Like that's what we're doing today, right? And so I think that sort of that point that I have higher on the slide about identifying specific interest groups, are there people who are already doing the type of work that you're doing that then you can really tap into as allies to be both cross-promoting, but also learning from each other? So there is this amazing group led by Katie Noonan out of Lake Merritt that does a lot of the same types of observational things that we're doing with the buoy on a BioBlitz day. And so we've reached out and she brings her class specifically every year and has for the last 5+ years to be able to do those observations. And so it's not that we're not also tailoring to the general public, but how can we look at like who's already doing this and who's already interested in this and how can we partner together to really amplify that? So one of the things that Leah had mentioned and I think is honestly like one of the most exciting things that I have gotten to encounter over the last number of years is the learning research that we have around environmental education messaging and how people, like the psychology piece, the social sciences piece. I will say that I've really seen over the last number of years, you know, certainly NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, I feel like often or has really sort of got to a point where they were like, you know, we have all the climate science. What the science we really need is why people aren't doing something about it, right? And like there has been so much more focus on really understanding how, like why we behave the way we behave. And it's such a critical part of education. So, you know, some of those pieces are like, what are the metaphors, the tested messaging that already works? So, in other words, do I have to recreate the wheel? Has someone already done the research to figure out what the easiest way is to explain ocean acidification in less than 60 seconds? Yes? Awesome. Like let's go with that and use it. And then instead of worrying about whether or not our video is going to like reinvent the wheel to talk about this, we can just use what's already been done and then be able to leverage from there to continue talking about things. And it doesn't mean that we're not bringing more to the conversation. It doesn't mean that we're not like helping flesh that out more, but being able to at least enter with an understanding of what resonates with folks like across the country, I think is really helpful. So I put a link at the bottom right hand to the Frameworks Institute, and they are amazing. They originated as a basically a political framing organization studying what types of messages and framing were most effective for influencing people's decisions as they were, thinking about political issues. And then they pivoted towards science and really thinking about actually, could we find out instead of what necessarily most sort of influences people's behavior, let's do a whole body of research about how people understand climate and really complex issues in the simplest way possible. And then B, a much bigger body of work that I think is a more broadly applicable here, particularly when we're thinking about biodiversity, in terms of leaving people feeling, as I mentioned before, right, that piece of like empowered or invigorated versus depleted and depressed and overwhelmed, particularly when we're facing such huge existential issues. So here we are again with our buoy days and using some of these. This is one of our amazing explainers using some of these principles in discussing the research. One of them is the osteoporosis of the sea is one piece that I just talked about. Another message, another metaphor that's really big is thinking about understanding global warming as instead a heat trapping blanket. That heat trapping blanket metaphor really seems to resonate with folks, and I think I don't know the best way of doing this. I'm happy to send some specific articles, etc. But I think that there's something also that's been really important in this research in that, Exploratorium, for example, has a very robust visitor research education department. That is self-selecting. We are talking to people who have decided to come to a science museum, right? And so a lot of this research is a little bit broader and like at malls and places like that. And so this idea of like a topic literacy hack, just meaning that the shortest amount of time you spend having to explain what it is that you're talking about, the longer you have to be able to get to the message that it is that you want to convey, right? And the more people understand what it is you're talking about, the more they're going to be able to identify with that. And so looking to the literature, to each other, to partners to see like what has worked and taking that so that you can just move on to the piece that is more sort of specialized to what it is that you're trying to convey can be really, really helpful. And so this is basically sort of the what I was just referring to broken down in terms of, the metaphors can be a really big piece in conveying information that's reliable and quick and retainable in a way that's memorable, right? Like osteoporosis of the sea, that's something that people remember and then retain. And then in terms of framing the information, one is that sort of accessibility. Another is then how do we do that sweet spot that we've been talking about making people not overwhelmed. So one of the things that I have found so fascinating about the social science research around this is it is connecting people to community action. Um, I put this slide in here just because it was so cool. This is what we found on the buoy this year, and we're talking about biodiversity, and I'd never seen these types of tunicates on the buoy. And okay. So we're just gonna place that over there because tunicates. So an example, if say I was to talk to you all about climate change or biodiversity and the declining rate of native species and how that connected to pollution and what it is that we could do about it, and I said, okay, so you could bike to work. That's not super great because they may not be able to, right? Whether it is a geographic issue or an accessibility issue, like that's not necessarily a choice that people can make. If I say, okay, et cetera, and you can lobby the city of San Francisco to change the bike lanes to be able to make it easier to bike to work, that feels a little too big, right? And people are like, okay, like where do I start with that, right? There is somehow a Goldilocks piece where when you say something instead like, hey, have you heard about the San Francisco Bike Coalition? Super cool organization. They do free clinics on how to like fix your bicycle. They'll teach you everything you need to know. And they also do a lot of lobbying for the city and have like expanded the bike paths within San Francisco. There's something that gets at the psychological piece that I would love to pretend does not exist in me, but I think exists in all of us, which is that like, if I'm doing something and no one else is making these sacrifices too, why should I make these sacrifices in terms of like, I think at least subconsciously, right? And so by understanding that the community around you is doing something, we're able to take action together. And so that basically leads me to wanting to toss it over to Anaya, who is much more skilled in the calls to action piece. But I think that just to sort of do this last piece this is an example of where instead of directly interacting with the buoy, people directly interacted with some of the things that they had found on it and were doing like creating art from what they had found on it. And the sort of just the last piece I would say is, I don't know if you're aware of the work of Catherine Hayhoe. She is an evangelical climate educator. And I saw her speak last year, and there was something that she said that she put in a way that I just felt like I hadn't kind of heard it in that way exactly, which was that she was saying, a lot of times there's this dialogue within environmental education about calls to action and how like we want people to care about things that they don't have the space to care about emotional energy wise, right? Like I need to pay my rent. I need to feed my kids. I need to make sure my kids are healthy. Like I do not have time for that to think about invasive species in the bay. And the way that she put it is that you never actually have to convince anyone of anything to care about anything because environment has to do with everything, right? You can talk about how like, hey, it's interesting because invasive species in the bay are actually, like legacy of shipping, et cetera, but as we think about the, imbalance of them, and we can talk about rising temperatures in the water, et cetera, and like you care about your kids' health, and that's what this is about, right? Like in the end, tapping into what people already care about versus thinking that we need to convince them to care about something new, because in the end, everything really does tie back to the environment and this world and what we are doing. And so really being able to sort of ground one's calls to action in realizing that instead of trying to convince people to care about something new, we can tap into what they already care about.
I had a whole slide presentation set, but unfortunately, like YVA's, I have like a YVA email and like our whole thing is shut down right now. So I cannot log into it, which is with the email that I used the presentation for. So y'all would just probably be seeing my face and some videos that I will be showing y'all today. But yeah, sorry. But hi, my name is Anaya Butler. I use she, her pronouns. I'm 15 and I'm from Oakland. I'm a youth organizer with Youth versus Apocalypse. YVA is a Bay Area based group led by predominantly frontline youth fighting for climate. I'm sorry, someone's texting me to schedule a meeting. Fighting for climate justice. And we also advocate for social justice. And we overall just try to teach youth about the climate justice movement and ways they can get involved while also like, carrying out those acts among other things through like our different campaigns and programs that we offer. I hold a few titles. I'm a lead circle member, which is like the group of like the campaign coordinators and like the people that organize the actions. I'm also the Hip Hop and Climate Justice Initiative Coordinator. And so that is a program within YVA where we use music videos, which is like our biggest form among other types of hip hop to bring youth into the climate justice movement. And then I also just like am a campaign, I don't like have an official title for this, but I just really help out campaign coordinators in any way that I can in terms of like giving them help and stuff. And then I'm also our TikTok coordinator and a social media co-coordinator. So yeah, but thank y'all so much for having me today. I'm gonna get into it. So YPA, like when we use videos, we use them in a few different ways and we've like learned to use them in a few different ways. I thought I would start, well, I had a presentation, but we're just gonna go by how these links are set up in my tabs. I think I'll start off with TikTok. That is a fairly new thing that we've been doing. It started off and then like, we didn't really know how to, because like with TikTok, like Leah was saying earlier, like the hook is really important. And so you have to like be able to just hook the viewers in really quickly or else they'll just swipe and most likely they won't see that video again because of the TikTok algorithm and how it is, because TikTok will assume, well, the viewer doesn't like this type of video, so I'm just not going to show them this type of video and that type of follower again. And so after we learned that, and then we also realized like we want like all of our other social media is like not a serious place, but we just talk about the climate crisis in a more serious tone. And we wanted TikTok to sort of like be a space where we as youth can also process and cope with the climate crisis and also like help other youth cope with that and like let them know that like coping with it is okay and the way you're doing it is okay, but we're here. And so that is something new that we've been doing. We use TikTok to talk about just like things going on with climate change in general, and then to also uplift our actions and like things that we have going on when it comes to like events, actions, and like bills you could, like people can sign and stuff like that. And then we also use it to like interact with other organizations and stuff like that. Sorry if you can hear my dog playing with this toy in the background. And so yeah, I'm gonna just, before I talk, I'm gonna show y'all the video. I'm gonna show y'all two videos just like of an example of us like talking about an issue sort of and like uplifting an action. So I'm gonna share screen. So. Okay.
How am I supposed to live, laugh, love in these conditions? How am I supposed to live, laugh, love in these conditions?
Okay, so as you can see, that was a very, very short video, but its purpose was to like, so BlackRock, just in case y'all don't know, is like a financing company that invests into a lot of money, like billions of dollars into the fossil fuel industry. And we were having an action that upcoming Friday targeting BlackRock. And so we try to like use popular sounds with TikTok because a lot of people recognize them quickly and they're more likely to stay on that sound, on that video, so they'll watch it longer. And sometimes it's just like more intriguing because TikTok is already a fun space, so we don't want it to like make it in a way less fun. We want to keep it that same way while also still talking about these serious things and like also like being youthful and like being able to relate to people who are watching this. So the goal of this video was to talk about like how BlackRock is investing billions of dollars into the fossil fuel industry. And like, as y'all can see, like the video sounds like, how am I supposed to live, laugh, love in these conditions? And that's just saying like literally how we're supposed to like continue to live in these conditions, because soon we won't be able to. And then just saying like, take action with this Friday. That was an action that we had before. And then just also saying follow our Instagram for more information, because the way that we have our social media set up, you can find a lot more information about our actions, like flyers and graphics and other videos on our Instagram. So yeah. And then we have this, oh, sorry, okay. Where's the sound thing? Okay.
How you like me, but you ain't send me $40 million? Something ain't adding up here. 2 + 2 = 4. How you like me, but you ain't send me.
So that video is also very short, but it was another very like popular sound. And I see like some of y'all laughing. It's also to like sort of bring youth, like just happiness in general, into the movement, because, you know, talking about these things can be very draining, and like sort of like, you know, in a way, you sort of in a way like lose joy. And so we also want these videos to like sort of restore that, and like just say it's okay to like laugh sometimes, even though we are in serious times. And, you know, it seems like, you know, we shouldn't be happy. We're still allowed to do that. And, you know, that's what helping us continue. And so we use the sound because at the time it was like very, it was trending. So it's more likely to pop on people's For You pages. And then they're more likely to share and stuff like that. And so this video was to say like, a lot of people like know about climate change and want to resolve it, but they don't go into the next step of taking action against it. And so it's like sort of like in a funny way saying, you know, how do you want to fight against climate change but aren't taking action? And then in this case, we use like action for our climate strike. Because again, we had like a lot of actions for the past couple of months, but we were having another action that upcoming Friday. And so we were just saying this was probably for Bay Area youth because it was a Bay Area action. But just saying like, you know, if you want to fight for climate change, or not for climate change, but for climate justice, please come to our action, please come to our strike. So that was the goal of this video. And just to talk about, well, I think I already did this, but yeah, our TikTok space is mostly a space for us to try to like relate to other, primarily youth and just other people in general, and to sort of like bring, you know, more joy into it and just have it like a fun space, because that's what TikTok really is, while still like educating people about, you know, our wants and needs and our demands and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's TikTok. And then now I'm going to move on to Instagram. We have been using Instagram for a very, very long time. We post like a lot of things on Instagram, but I'm going to focus on videos, and we also post a variety of videos on Instagram. But I think the one I want to focus on probably, because we do this a lot, is like posts that are talking about our campaigns, or just in general like demands and targets. So we usually have like a youth leader who is most likely connected to that campaign, whether they're like a coordinator of that campaign or just generally part of that campaign, to make a 1-minute video explaining like what that campaign is, like why people should care, how it's affecting people in general, and then like what can you do to get involved, or like what's coming up for that campaign. And so recently we released a music video, which I'll talk about later, but connected to that music video were a set of demands. And all those demands were like one of our campaigns, related to our campaigns. And so we had like all the campaign coordinators sort of make a video about their campaign, just explaining like overall what it is and everything. And then a lot of stuff was happening, you know, for those leaders that they were targeting up until that point. So it was like a really good spot to start like, you know, putting pressure on them and letting people know what to do. And then all of the demands were somehow like related to investing or funding into destruction, because that's what the music video was about. So a lot of like the videos will be talking about this, but also like it can be like really complex sometimes if we talk about exact numbers. And so when we're trying to educate youth about it, sometimes like when you present people with like a lot of information at one time, it can be very intimidating, and youth will sort of like shut down and just not listen, from what we've experienced in the past. And so we've just, because like we also sometimes experience that, and so we really try to like condense the information as simple as possible, especially like when it's your first time, and then you learn more about it like once you like get involved or watch more videos. And so I just want to say that because this video like might seem simple, but there's like a lot of more information about it that youth who are coming to like those meetings are learning more. So yeah, but I'm gonna share that.
$30 million.
Sorry. Okay, so
everybody.
okay, I'm just gonna click on it. It won't have like a pause button. I'm just gonna click on it when we go. But this is our Instagram. And then here's a video related to the campaign CalSTRS. You can feel free to like read the caption also.
Hey everybody. For those that don't know, CalSTRS stands for California State Teachers Retirement System, and it is the state pension fund for California public school teachers. CalSTRS is currently investing $6 billion into the fossil fuel industry. In addition to the fossil fuel industry, they're investing in the company developing Line 3 pipeline called Enbridge. By investing in fossil fuels in Line 3, they're investing in the destruction of our future, the future of Earth, and future generations. Sharon Hendricks and CTA, stop funding environmental racism. Divest CalSTRS. Hey everybody, for those that don't.
Okay, so that was a video about CalSTRS, which that leader Chris explained just like overall what it is. But that was a video that was actually like shared pretty widely, and that led up to that campaign like being able to talk to some of the board members on CalSTRS through like a virtual meeting and like talking about some of the demands. And so we usually when we have like do those type of videos, we have like I guess two main goals. So like people who are in the climate justice movement, and then our targets. And so of course our target was CalSTRS, and we were able to get to that target. And then, you know, the audience in general were able to spread that a lot, that, you know, allowed us to have the opportunity to even like meet some of those members from CalSTRS. And so I think when like making those type of videos in terms of like talking about a specific issue or a specific person, I think it really depends on who you want to get involved, but our like primary focus is youth. And so we try to keep the information short, simple, but up straight and still like truthful and honest, telling youth, you know, what it is, what's happening, how it's affecting us, and then like who's responsible for it and like what you can do about it. So we have many videos like that, but that was an example. And so next I'm going to share, well, actually this is the same video. And then like we also like do announcements of like campaigns, so just explaining like what it is. But this is a video that we have on YouTube. Other types of videos that we do are like videos leading up to an action. It's sort of similar to a TikTok, but it's like, first of all, longer, and then it's like is trying to really hype people up and like just push people and motivate people into going to the action. And so we usually do that by like, or actually I'll let y'all watch it first and then say it. So yes, I'm gonna share screen again. This was a video that was made this year, right before our strike on September 24th.
What democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like.
Hey y'all, on September 24th, this upcoming Friday, it is Global Climate Strike Day, and we will be leading a march starting at Embarcadero Plaza in San Francisco. We're asking you to join us and to invite many other people there to take action with us. We're also asking y'all to wear red, yellow, and orange, and here are our demands.
We need Dianne Feinstein to end the filibuster, which is a tool used by Republicans to block votes on all legislation. If Senator Feinstein wants to pass legislation that is meaningful and significant, from voting rights to climate justice, then she must end the filibuster.
The only way we can get basic climate commitments that Biden and other representatives have promised is for the full reconciliation bill to be passed. Feinstein, we need you to be strong in supporting the full $3.5 billion bill, and we need you to get your colleagues to be on board and support it as well.
We demand that federal officials stop Line 3 to respect the rights of the Anishinaabe people in northern Wisconsin.
We are stopping at the San Francisco City Hall and State Building because currently there are absolutely 0 buffer zones between oil drilling sites and our homes, schools, and hospitals. Our health is suffering at the hands of politicians who do not want to listen, and low-income BIPOC communities are getting the worst of it. We demand that California decision makers roll out 2,500-foot health and safety buffer zones. No drilling where we're living.
In conclusion, we need Feinstein, Pelosi, and Newsom to take the necessary actions to support the Green New Deal on a state and federal level, because we need social justice, we need climate justice, and we need economic justice.
What do you want? Climate justice. When do you want it? Now. When do you want? Climate justice. When do you want it? Now.
Okay, so that was a video leading up to the action, basically explaining all of our demands and targets, and then like including some clips.
Thank you for joining our event today. My name is Nat.
Sorry, the next video played. So yeah, as I was saying, that was a video that we made just to talk about our demands, talk about our targets, and then also like include clips of like, I'd led this workshop at a not a school in Oakland, where we practiced chants and like did drumming and stuff like that, and just using your voice in general for that, but also because they were going to be our chant leaders for that action. But we wanted to include that just to show like, you know, youth are out here doing it, so like, you know, you're not alone, and like other people are doing it, other people are here to help you. So we included clips from that, and then we're just trying to overall just share our demands and targets for that action. And then in the background, the person who made the video put one of the tracks from our music videos, just so it can be like still intriguing at the same time, because sometimes just hearing people talk for a long time, especially for youth, like can be like, you have sometimes like people just have short attention spans and they don't want to watch the whole thing. So just to keep the listener engaged. And then another type of video that I won't share today because it's way too long, but that we do are like capturing the event or action itself. And so like having a person who was assigned just to like literally like document the action. For when we first had like our actions coming back, you know, from the pandemic, we knew like a lot of schools couldn't come because something that YVA does is like school field trips to get youth out there. But we knew that a lot of youth wouldn't be able to come. And so we like had a live stream of the action where teachers instead just like use their class time to show that live stream. And, you know, it wasn't only them like just listening to us chant and stuff like that. It was them actually doing stuff. We had like prepared videos of people. One of like the leaders, Zainab, she basically like led an activity where you would call a representative like Joe Biden, Dianne Feinstein, or someone on the call list. And like she had like a script and they could read it off the screen and everything. And it's just like saying one of those demands or like whatever they want to talk about, just talking about that. And then at the end, saying like uproot the system, which was like the official hashtag for the action as a whole, because it was a global climate strike. And so we also had like other activities that youth could do. And so it's also just like, it was actually really cool. I didn't know how it was going to turn out because, you know, we were all in action, but still helping, you know, youth who weren't physically there to be there, but still like engaging people while they're not physically there, but still like helping them get involved. So yeah, but I won't share that video because it's long, but I can put our YouTube in the chat where you can find it. And so the last type of video that we have is a music video. I'll be showing our most recent one, but just to give like some context, we started to produce music videos in 2020, right when we went into quarantine, because we were planning on having like this really, really big climate strike for International Climate Strike Day on Earth Day, but then that ended up getting canceled because of course we went into quarantine. And so we were like, okay, what's like a fun, engaging way that we can still have youth involved while still like spreading an important message that we wanted to spread on that day. And so then we thought of releasing a music video because like, you know, we thought it would be really cool just to include like something that a lot of youth like to listen to and enjoy, while still like talking about these things. And so a group of people, including myself, helped put that together. And that first music video was No One Is Disposable. And then we went on to sort of like better the program and had like public creative writing workshops where youth within YVA could come write and like learn different creative writing skills. And then from there, we like, when I became like the coordinator, I basically had like workshops within schools, and then just like public workshops for everyone to come write. And so then the whole like song is youth produced, youth edited, and everything like that. And so this music video is Where's the Money At? This music video is just about targeting our power holders and like politicians and institutions that really invest and fund their money into destruction, into different forms of destruction, like the fossil fuel industry, like ICE, like the police, among other ways that we discuss in the video. And a lot of the, well, yeah, all of the youth who are on there went to the workshop I led at the school, and they put a lot of work into it. So excited to show y'all. I have to pull it up. And yeah, I'll just talk more about like the overall goal for it, but after the end.
Hey yo, Cabot, where you at, bro?
Oh my, are they really for the people? Yeah, we see no sign. They tryna build walls, but who commit world crimes? Gassing us up while we pay more fines. Oh my, power to the people so the people gon' climb. We gon' keep flowing like the rivers in the sky. Generations of resistance be the reason for the rhyme.
Money spent just to bring this torture to our lives. Money spent just to see the tears in our eyes. Money spent to kill off and see us alone. Where's the money at? Cause how could we know? Money for the wealthy, abusive, and white. Money for the powerful men who are high. Money we should spend spreading COVID-19. Money should be spent for a future that's free. Cause we are the ones marching for a change. We are the ones protesting for the same right. Equity, peace, and efficiency. Water and air, just show us some decency. Terrible lies and empty promises.
Your money pours out dirty, don't want to give it today. Where the money here to change? You try to hide it from us, but we figured it out. Now that we know, we'll try to change it, no doubt. Oh, here's yet another problem, climate change. Our future disappearing, where do you make a change? Don't say there's nothing we can do. People are dying, have you not got the clue? Stop using all the harmful machinery. We want to see the money funded into frontline communities, not into the fossil fuel industry. So much for all of us now, where's the money at?
They tryna build walls, but who commit world crimes? Gassing us up while we pay more fines. Oh my, power to the people so the people gon' climb. We gon' keep flowing like the rivers in the sky. Generations of resistance be the reason for the rhyme.
We're standing for a better world, like polar bears starving for food. You're leaving animals an unlivable home, like you're leaving us an unlivable earth. Why fund for the end of our communities and not fund sustainability? We need to invest money smartly, and then it will be art. We need to stop spending money on hurtful things. Replant the greenery so we can have a pretty scenery. Fossil fuels, police, all activities, and enforcing white supremacy. Need to go, need to protect our homes. So where's the money at?
Callous has been using the money from teachers to harm our communities. As villain to fossil fuel industry will censoring youth from reality. OPD and RPDs get paid for terrorizing when the money should be helping people in need, not feeding the pigs. Don't think I forgot about the governor. Gavin Newsom, such a good giver. Issuing fossil fuel permits like healthcare should be. Fasting for free, not getting all the little kids sick. They're afraid of people knowing the destruction they be funding. Greenwashing they be showing and get mad when YBA confronts it.
Oh my,
and get mad when YBA confronts it.
They tryna build walls, but who commit world crimes? Gassing us up while we pay more fines. Oh my, power to the people so the people gon' climb. We gon' keep flowing like the rivers in the sky. Generations of resistance be the reason for the rhyme.
Hey yo, Cabot, where you at, bro?
Oh my, are they really for the people? Yeah, we see no sign. They tryna build walls, but who commit world crimes? Gassing us up while we pay more fines. Oh my, power to the people so the people gon' climb. We gon' keep flowing like the rivers in the sky. Generations of resistance be the reason.
Okay, guys, I just want everyone to get their credits. I'm gonna let go, but I'll talk at the same time. So that was our most recent music video. Sorry. Okay, yeah, that was our most recent music video. And the overall goal was to, before we've never like talked about, like we've never targeted a specific leader or like corporation, just because like we're still getting into like writing, and a lot of the artists who featured in the previous songs were very new at writing. But I think something we want to do differently is like specifically like mention leaders and corporations who are like, you know, doing things that we don't need, like investing into fossil fuels, not providing adequate healthcare, housing, and stuff like that. And so that's something that we had to really work on within those workshops and just like portraying them throughout the video. For like the overall script for the video, we had like, he wasn't like random, but it was our first time filming in person, and so we got someone from Palestinian Youth Movement to act as a power holder who was carrying the briefcase and like on his phone, not listening to youth. And like in the beginning, we tried to show how like sometimes communities go after each other instead of like targeting the root of the problem, which are, you know, sometimes our power holders or the systems that, you know, they're put in to work. And so like at the end, it was sort of like the community coming together and like going to the power holder and like reclaiming what we need, which is the money to, you know, fund our communities and to fund our future and our freedom. And then we also just wanted to show like general, like, you know, it's a music video, so we still want it to be fun and engaging. And so we include dancing. And then we also had like these big banners to show like all of our demands and our targets. And then we had 2 murals, one that says defund destruction, that showed like Oakland's port, which is like where Phil Tagami, a prominent developer, wants to build a coal terminal throughout. And then like we showed a snake, which in many indigenous communities symbolizes like oil. So it's like showing the oil and the pollution that's like being spread throughout the country, but specifically we want to talk about line 3. And then like the mural, not below, well yeah, I was below, just saying like fund our freedom, saying like, you know, we need money to really fund our freedom and our future, because we realize that some people in this country are free, but a lot of people aren't, and those are the main people who are being impacted by the climate crisis at a disproportionate rate. And so that mural had like things like a butterfly and a tree to represent like sustainability for the environment, but also for ourselves. And then we also had people like write little mini signs like saying like divest CalSTRS, divest from fossil fuels, Gavin Newsom, divest from fossil fuels and stuff like that, just to call out those corporations and those leaders a little bit more and put like more pressure on them.
Right, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. I wish we had so much more time to watch all of them. Thank you. We don't have a ton of time, but I do want to open things up for some Q&A and some questions. I know there must be some burning thoughts in our audience. So I'm gonna turn things over. I've got our participant list up if folks want to raise hands. Otherwise, feel free to unmute yourself and let's get to chatting for the 10 minutes we've got.
Yeah, hi. This is probably a really specific question, but right at the beginning, you talked about the thumbnails for the video and how it doesn't have to be wherever your video opens up. How do you select a different image to be your opening image?
Yeah, Anaya's probably done this with TikTok and YouTube. They both give you the option of selecting a different frame. And so what I would suggest is that you sort of consider that before you go into posting. That's why I was having you think about sort of what's the dynamism of your video before you even go to a posting space.
Gotcha. So when you're uploading it, it'll ask you, what do you want your opening frame to be? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or your thumbnail frame to be. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. Do I have any other raised hands? Oh, yeah, Gail. That's not a Gail. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm using my wife's computer because for some reason I lost connectivity on mine.
Great.
But this was really great. This is really inspiring. And I want to ask, as a retired teacher myself, who actually benefits from CalSTRS, receiving my retirement payments, meager though they are each month, is there some group of retired teachers who can more directly pressure CalSTRS to square up to what we're asking for?
Yes, we actually like have a group of adult allies that work around counselors because we know that the majority of California teachers like depend on counselors for their pension funds, but we do have a group of adult allies with that. I could put the link in the chat for that if you would like.
Great, thank you very much, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
I had another question. When you're making these meme videos, what's the deal with sort of plagiarism versus borrowing? What are you allowed to just take from other people's work?
That's a note that and I can also comment on. I noted she talked about sounds, and that's actually something that I didn't talk about when I was sort of talking about the language of TikTok. That sort of plagiarism, kind of borrowing that you're talking about is something that's super common on that platform. And what folks will do is use a sound, whether it's a piece of music or a piece of dialogue, and they'll kind of lip sync to it. And that's super, super common and accepted on that platform. And it's sort of within the confines of that space and that sort of lexicon. It's far less common on other platforms. So that's something that sort of lives within TikTok, but less so in other spaces. So if you're going to get sort of used to the TikTok world, very, very accepted. Other spaces like YouTube, less so.
And what about with static images? Like there's, that meme with the guy walking with the girl and he's looking at the other girl,
Right.
and you see that reused a million times. So can anybody just use that image? How do you know what's publicly available versus you're not really supposed to?
What's fair trade? The language of memes is pretty open season. Do either of you want to comment on this? It's hard because they are not tagged with a creator. And so it's hard to cite them often. It's hard to sort of trace them back. Like the guy with the girl looking over his shoulder, if y'all are familiar with that, that's been on the internet and floating around for 5 or 8 years now. So to actually cite an original creator on that would be nigh impossible, I think. So where possible, we try to I certainly try to give credit, but the internet and digital media space is kind of a wild west in that respect.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, which can be tricky. As an academic, that makes me crazy.
Yeah. I'm clearly showing my age that I'm worried about plagiarism on the internet.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I totally hear you, Tracy. Star.
Thank you. I'm older, obviously, and live in a community that has a very high demographic of elderly retired. And they're often the people that can be active in this community because we're not at work with kids to raise and we have a little more time. And the group, I belong to a citizens group that's pretty much all of us similar ages. So I was a little hesitant about learning about all of this because it's new to me. It's not my world. I don't have a facility because they're all languages and it's not something I'm comfortable learning right now. We focus on letters to the editor in the newspaper. We have the paper of record for our county as our local paper, and the radio. And there's another media outlet that's has a great website where you can post op-eds and information. And we have our own Facebook page and that I help moderate. So we're constantly posting links. So for where we are, should we be thinking about getting more into social media because that's the wave of the future, or we're actually trying to catch that wave that's gone past us? It feels like we're the surfer sitting out there in the ocean and the wave has just gone by and everybody else is on shore. We're still sitting there. That's what it feels like. But should we just jump in and start trying it? What do you suggest for us elders that are a little new to this?
Kate, you had some awesome thoughts on audience. Do you want to take this one?
Sure. So just to make sure that I am like encapsulating your question, like where to start, is that right?
Yeah.
All of this can be extremely intimidating, and I guess I would say start anywhere. I think that what some of, I think again, thinking about audience and again, like, how do you translate? Like you are coming from this really awesome perspective of having content, right? Like you have these pieces and that's amazing. Like you don't, right? Like you are starting from this super cool foundation of that. So in terms of audiences, like, is this something where, for example, on Instagram, it would be like a beautiful photo with a quote from one of your editorials, right? That is like made to be sort of like this beautiful image with this powerful quote, etc., right? Or even like someone who wrote the editorial or is speaking towards it, like just sort of saying some of those things, maybe pairing with some images if you wanted to do a video, right? Like thinking again about who it is and frankly the attention span that is like going with each piece, right?
Okay.
Sorry, like let's just be real.
Gotta grab them quick then, yeah?
Yeah, right? But
Yeah.
there are, like, for however cynical that last potentially inappropriate comment was, I think that it is, it's real in that these things serve different purposes, right? Like there may be something that is just really poignant from that editorial that like I would love to share in a way that's not me downloading the PDF and like circling this line, right? It's like that is like curated with a photo or something that I can then yeah. So I think there are different ways that you can go in, but you're starting from an awesome foundation of having that content.
That leads me, can I ask one more quick question? As elders, I know we have some youth groups in the area and we actually have more specific elder groups in the area, but I'm wanting to grab, it seems like the more of us are all together on any of these subjects, the better it is, right? And as elders, how do we grab youth? Or do we just let them do their own thing and we know they're doing their own thing and that's good, but we're currently in our program right now is that we're gathering our allies in this area. So how do we reach out to younger allies?
Naya, you want to take? Yeah, Naya, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can.
Please, thank you.
I think really just like, well, first, I think it depends on your capacity because we, of course, don't want anyone to take on too much work. I'm speaking like from knowing how much work I do. I think that the best thing that adults can do when it comes to just like supporting or just trying to be there for youth is just like overall supporting them. We're not saying that like the movement is only for youth. We just try to like prioritize youth. But like I would say just to like support in any way that you can. And then also like youth are sometimes in a position where we are sometimes not like heard or people don't want to listen to us because of our age. And so I would say like sometimes even like if necessary, like being a speaker for us and like knowing what we need and then you like being able to just say, just basically like, you know, just supporting what we're saying and like being there in general is the main thing that we need because I think that's what's happening a lot, especially right now, just like the lack of support of like just people listening to us in general because of our age. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
I would connect what you just said, Anaya, too. What Kate was talking about is like, don't reproduce the wheel, right? Like find out what youth groups are already doing and then amplify that, right?
Okay.
Build across and build with, as opposed to saying like, the youths are over there. They're doing their thing.
Yeah, we could put that on our Facebook page. Like, here's a youth group doing cool. They're here with us. Okay, got it. Thank you. Thanks.
I think that's so much more powerful and so much more effective. And, you know, amplifying their voices, you know, reaching out to them and saying, I see you're having an action, you know, can we support? Do you need anything driven? Do you need anything, you know, like I could be a grown up, I got a car, you know, what is it that you need done? And find out what are those capacities that, you know, you're saying, you know, you're older folks, you can get on a phone. Gen Z's hate phones. So I build those bridges, I think is the community goal here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think on that. So
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
The Just the last piece that I would say is that, like, I think our role as older than youth, depending on wherever we are in that spectrum, is to do that, right? And I think that, like, one of the things that hopefully I, you know, certainly try in our work is in like partnering with youth advocates, like how can, exactly what Leah just said, how can we support you, like how can we amplify you, while also recognizing that, you know, I think that there's a lot of really beautiful things that happen with intergenerational interactions, particularly around the environment, where there's so many observations, right, that have changed, like from, you know, youth, like from when, you know, we were that age to the age that folks are now, and being able to just see within our own environment. And so I guess I would just say that I think that amplifying and giving our younger voices whatever it is that they need that we can within our power is amazing, while also recognizing what unique perspectives we in our own, from our own places, are bringing to the table to be able to hopefully help.
Thank you so much for that, Kate. That's, yeah, that's better than I said it.